everybody. I just thought I'd do a little bit of a studio hobby room update. It's funny, I've just did a major cleaning and organizing of my hobby space, which I do need to do on occasion, and probably more frequently than I do. But I just took kind of a step back, and I have some things, new things that I've included in the room for both the channel and other things. And I thought that it might be worth just doing a video. The last time I did a video just on my hobby space, I looked back and it was 2014 when I first moved into this room, which I've been very fortunate to have in my place. And so one of the big things that I ended up doing is I actually ended up including a PC in this room, which I've just put up today. I was able to salvage an old monitor, which works perfectly fine. But this is a monitor that I bought in 2005, actually, and it was pretty nice back then for a computer that I had built back then. But I do some bookkeeping for my wife's business, and so in addition to some of the things that I need to do for a business, we oftentimes we're using the same computer for work she does for the business, and then as well for me and what I do for it, as well as my YouTube stuff. And so it hasn't been a huge issue, but there are some time conflict pieces, and that computer's getting a bit old. We have to update that one. But we decided to sort of split our functions for the business onto two PCs. And so it made sense that I could actually just put this down in the hobby room and dedicate it to both the bookkeeping as well as Heresy Productions. And so now I've basically got my hobby room where I have my paints and one painting area here, where I also put up a box and I do with a mask some airbrushing in this spot here. And then as well I have another painting area here and an area to use for the computer. Now this wood thing is just for my painting station that I transport if I do want to do some painting upstairs, and to be around folks I use that thing which I built. And yeah, I've got my little space here. And so now that I have the computer here, I am looking and exploring using webcams for the channel. And so whether it be for my chats, perhaps having a webcam that's dedicated to what I'm doing on the table, or even conducive to showing what I'm doing on the table, and then a webcam that will just show a regular shot just for the chat that is normal. And so we'll see about that. That'll be most likely coming in the future. I'll show my display cabinets again and how I've reorganized them, but this is just sort of, this is a small room, and so it's hard for me to capture everything in the room. But as you can see if you watch that old video, this place is very cluttered. Organized now, but still cluttered compared to what I had before. Up on this shelf I have just some miscellaneous stuff. I actually have some Infinity, just game. I made a little section for just gaming aids, just things that I just grab and need a spot to put together, like dice and stuff, and then just some miscellaneous models and things that I just don't have another spot for. That's a big bag of Marvel miniatures. And so then my next shelf is one of my Old Hammer Warhammer miniatures shelf, and this is primarily where I have Beastmen and just some Eldar and Bretonnian stuff. And I have an entire shelf of books that are primarily Warhammer, with a couple of historical books in there. And I have a historical shelf of unfinished stuff that I'm going to be working on. And in some cases, like the Dark Age miniatures, there are just sprues and boxes in case I wanted to use bits and things. I have a fairly clear shelf that I've organized here, and this is going to be, right now it's an overflow of some Mordheim stuff and some more Old Hammer fantasy stuff that I'll be in the process of painting up. And then I just have some board games and Armada stuff, some miscellaneous stuff there. And all of my terrain primarily, that's an empty box for when I transport things, or empty container that I just have shoved there. But these are boxes of primarily terrain and mats and things like that. and I have more terrain, which I find takes up the most amount of space. You play a lot of different games and use a lot of different terrain, you can kiss room goodbye because it pretty much takes up lots of space. Big thing of Halloween candy that I have like stolen before I left the house. My kids each have their own stash, and then the leftovers we tend to get rid of so it doesn't last forever, but I stole that stuff. And then I've got this more terrain, but these are all bits and miniatures that I'm going to be painting in the future, and mostly terrain and terrain building and supplies and things, and then more overflow down here. Actually, it's funny, those two bins right there are actually just bases. Like, they're bags of various different size bases, one box for historical and one for non-historical. And it's amazing just when those were all in bags and sitting on shelves, just how much of a mess. Just even empty cans and stuff for the future, for another tower or something like that. And then more boxes of miniatures and bits down here. And actually more terrain, those rivers and things. So it is amazing just how much space this hobby can take up. But I've not cleaned out all my display cabinets like I need to, but I did reorganize some and I'm creating some more room. One of the ones that I'm really looking forward to is this is just a spot where I'm just going to be putting some Oldhammer Fantasy. Now those miniatures right there are actually, although they're painted, I'm going to be stripping them. Those are not painted by me. They're not bad, but I want to paint them myself. And so those are some old Minotaurs by Citadel, older kind. And then I have, of course, the giant that I did paint. And some Saga and sort of Saga/fantasy terrain that I just threw in there to create a little scene. And I've got a fairly empty shelf here that's going to be awaiting all of the Savage Core stuff that I'm planning on painting soon. And then, of course, I've got some of my Eldar and a whole bunch of cords that I need to do something about. But some Eldar that I've painted in the past. And another little display that I've started here that I really like. It's a little cluttered, but I might need to figure something out with it. But it's just a little Marvel display that I have going on with some civilians in the back by the bus. And it's just sort of a limited number of villains. I have some more to paint of villains with a whole bunch of heroes. Really outnumbered. I have a miscellaneous shelf here that I may put my Malifaux in the back too, but I've got some Infinity that I've painted in the past. I do have some Infinity to paint, even though I'm not playing right now, but I'm thinking I may in the future paint a model of Infinity or two. I really like those. I've got some futuristic sort of Prussians with the model that I ended up converting myself and doing some sculpting in the front there. That is the Iron Chancellor, is what I had named him. And then I've got a shelf that I have to straighten up a bit, but I'm reserving for musket and tomahawk stuff. Yeah. And then I have one more display cabinet. Now I have to upgrade the lighting in these display cabinets. I really have lighting only in the top at the moment. I have a new system that I really like that's out in my hallway here. So when I walk into my hobby room, I have another display right here, and it has lighting, IKEA lighting, but it's for every shelf. It's all connected. And this last one on the bottom, I don't have anything at the moment, but I have a World War II little display of stuff that I've done. So U.S. Airborne, some U.S. Army, some tanks and things. And then I have some Warhammer 40K. And then it's empty, which is nice because I've not had room for anything in the past, and I've kind of straightened and made some room recently. I may do that last shelf over there for Saga, is probably what I would like to do. And then I'd have a little bit more historical stuff, not just the musket and tomahawks and World War II, but also the Saga. And so yeah, I did, in order to move out of that cabinet, I did take this little guy here that I did during the October break last year, and I just took it out of the cabinet and put it on top with some other things. I have a lot of memorabilia, whether it be from when I used to play HeroClix, that's Marvel. Even stuff when, like, I have a little Marvel lunchbox when I was a kid. It's like an antique these days. Just threw up there. But yeah, that's the new sort of organized hobby space with potential for more streaming options. Now that I have a PC here too, I'm hoping to be able to join some of the chats, the paint-in chats that people do. I know Tabletop Commanders has one of them. There's a couple of them, and I've been using my iPad for those, but I've had technical difficulties, among other things, in trying to get into those chats, and so yeah, I'm hoping to be able to do a little bit more of that as well. But certainly hoping to leverage some webcams for the new, I guess, new technology for uploading video in the future, and maybe even experimenting a bit with some live stream stuff. More so, not just to do it, but I like the idea of collaborating, and I've thought about this in the past. I mean, I have a lot of folks that I socialize with through the channel. I don't know who might be interested, but I thought about some collaboration in the future. I've thought about it in the past, even approached some folks at times about the idea of having sort of like a joint show. And yeah, and so I think this setup is more conducive for me being able to do it, experimenting with some of the live stream stuff, and we will see. So I hope you guys are having an awesome weekend. I'm looking forward to watching another episode of Stranger Things and Star Trek probably later with family. And so I'm having a good one, and I hope you are too. Take care.